hello, this is Les Fox. This is October 21st at 7:36 p.m. and this is going to be a meeting of the Water Resources Committee. So I'll do a roll call and then we can get going here. So Steve Schmidt.
Present.
Brian Lynch.
Present.
Brian Clemens.
He's muted.
Brian, you're muted.
You're muted, Brian. Present. There we go.
You need to say you're here.
Oh,
Brian.
He said present, Les.
Did you say something? Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. And John Markovich, I got you. John Markovich? Okay,
present.
Good. Okay, so we have a quorum, and I'll call us to order at 7:37. So, if no one has an objection, I'm going to take Emily's piece, item number 3 on the agenda first. I once again stupidly put a review of the minutes ahead of our guest. So without further ado, why don't I turn the rest of this over to Emily. So I think what she's going to do is we're going to have one final pass, comments, and a statement of what has become of all the accumulated comments. When there have been a lot, if you've read the appendix on the comprehensive report, a lot of comments from the committee over months, and that are now reflected in the document. Cindy Markowitz coming in. And then I think Emily is going to go over a draft presentation to be given to the select board next Monday.
Yep. Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Sorry if my voice is going in and out. I have a cold, so it's by the
Emily,
end of
should I make you a co-host so you can put up something?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let me do that. Make co-host. Okay, Emily, you are now a co-host.
Okay, great. So I'm not sure how much, you want to go through the actual report because you've all seen it. I do have Lindsay just making that one typo error that Brian emailed me about today, and then putting in a little disclaimer again about the recharge rates just to make sure that's a little bit more clear. So my hope is to have that packaged up. When do you need to have, I'm assuming you're sending this out with the select board packages with their agenda, Les? Is that?
At the select board meeting, we're basically just going to be your presentation.
Okay, you're not attaching the report to that?
No. What we're going to do, I think you may have a few tweaks to do on the report. I saw some traffic between you and Brian Clemens.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Just trying to decide, because I can have Lindsay Adams is adding that today. And so yes. I just didn't know if you needed to have that.
No, I don't need that tonight. Okay. No, I don't.
I should have it to you by the end of the week. It's just I'm out at trainings for the next 2 days, so I just want to make sure I look at it before the final version goes back to you. So, but those two things, Brian, are being addressed.
Right. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, everything I had commented on, I think, has been addressed.
Yeah.
There was one. There was one tiny thing that's wrong with me. It's my own fault for overlooking it. Early on in the comments, there was a statement about dealing with resolving the somewhat different takes on from the zoning relative to the Board of Health regulations on what protections to apply to water.
Okay.
And you guys are going to have to help me here, but what I remember is that initially that was Brian F. Clements. I think you did initially, and the statement that's in the appendix is that it's going to be resolved, and it's marked as we didn't deliver that yet. And I said, oh, that's because we as a town decided, the planning board, I think, decided not to pursue that and to go for a change to the zoning bylaw. But I'm not sure officially how it's resolved. In other words, I think right now, Brian Lynch and others, you can help me. I think that we don't perceive there to be a big disconnect between the Board of Health regulations and the zoning bylaw with respect to, say, wellhead protection areas and water resources. But it may still be a work in progress. I'm not sure what should go in that part of the appendix that talks about the comments. I'm sorry I didn't mark it. I can easily find it and send you a note on it, but it's very early on.
Okay.
This marked as outcome of ATM 2025, and I realized when I saw, oh, I never got back to you.
Okay.
In fact, you might remember Cindy's on the call. She was on the planning board. I believe that our expectation at that time was that there was going to be an article brought to town meeting and was going to put a wrap on all that. And actually, that article never came up or was passed over. I can't remember which. So I think that whole issue is kind of moot at this point. So Brian and Cindy, if you can shed some more light on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, what I was under the impression of is that the Aquifer Protection District was going to be, how do we put it, mathematized more accurately, and that the wellhead protections, the IWPAs for the public water supply wells, were going to be carried separately because they don't necessarily reflect an aquifer. They simply reflect a protective zone around a public water supply well.
Right.
I don't think the planning board, and again, this is something they would have to address, they were not comfortable with just using an IWPA. They wanted an actual mathematized boundary for the aquifer districts.
Okay.
So
Yes. So I don't. What should be put in the document to reflect the status of how those things ended up?
can
Is
I
there an
can I weigh
action?
in on this, Wes?
Yeah, please. I want you
Sorry.
to.
Yeah. So this is Cindy. Sorry. So we were responding to letters that Littleton Electric had sent, and they sent one to the Board of Health and one, I believe, to the Planning Board. I'm just going to quick bring it up. So apologies because I'm not totally up to speed.
Do you need to be made a co-host to show something, Cindy?
No, I'm just looking through the letter right now.
Okay.
So as a request of that, the Littleton Water Department is formally requesting, this was back in June of 24, Boxborough to update its Aquifer Protection District bylaw to include all the current prohibitions required under 310 CMR 22.21.2, which were attached to that letter. So that's kind of what initiated our effort to try to update the APD bylaw to be consistent with those regulations. And that's where that was the genesis of our effort. Brian Clemens pointed out that there was some inconsistencies because our Aquifer Protection District wasn't necessarily overlapping in its entirety with the Zone 2s. Right. And then there was a third, what was the third area, Brian? There were three sort of distinct, I don't know if it was the interim wellhead protection areas, or there was a third area. So we were just, it became apparent that we couldn't just do this in sort of one fell swoop. So because of the potential overlap. So we just didn't address it, and we didn't bring forward any article with the idea that maybe we would talk about this at a later date. So
yes. Brian, you have anything you want to say about this, and what if anything we should do going forward about this issue, which we spent a lot of time on? I'm talking Brian Clements. You remember you dug into this quite a bit.
Yeah, I think your words a few minutes ago were this is a work in progress, and I think the report can simply state that.
I agree.
I mean, we're not going to resolve the thing right now.
No.
And to address that issue overall, there is a groundwater regulation promulgated by the Board of Health that is a copy of the state's regulation,
Right.
with all of the substantives that they have in there.
Mhm.
It's actually expanded because it includes a little bit more than the state.
Right. The issue was that the groundwater protection regs don't necessarily overlay on our aquifer protection district, and therefore Littleton was asking us to update our APD, but they're different segments, I guess, of the town.
I mean, there's actually two known mapped zone 2s for public water supply wells in the town. The one is for Littleton water via the Beaverbrook Valley area for all of their wells, and the other is for Acton on the east side of town for all of their wells that go way up into up towards Sergeant Road and beyond.
Right.
Right. The APD covers more land than those two areas. So we just set this aside, I guess, for now. But
Yeah, I just
wasn't
didn't
sure-
want to leave it hanging in the appendix. I'm just digging it up now. So note in the appendix, it's actually the third item on the appendix F, I think it is. The actual data request outcome. This was Weston Sampson asking for what was the outcome of the 2025 ATM that will, quote, rationalize the aquifer protection ADP, ADP. I think that should be APD, Aquifer Protection District, and Board of Health Protections. It's a note from me, and that the status is not received. Well, the status should not be not received. I mean, it should be put put aside for another day. I think that's more accurate.
Okay.
Future task.
Future task. Okay.
Yeah. So I
you
will
want to just put that in an email so that
yes,
way
I will
make sure that we do it correctly and think about if anything else needs to. And I'll, you know, if you could do that in the next 24 hours.
That was the nit that I picked up. Right.
Okay. No worries. That's fine. Okay. So in terms of the report, I think by Friday we'll have the final with the, the couple things from Brian and that, comment from you, Les. But other than that, we've addressed, you'll see in Appendix F, we've addressed all the comments, which were great. It's good to have, this is your document. So we want to make sure we're reflecting the things that you want reflected in them. So I think it's a pretty useful document that you'll be able to build off of, which is good. But really, I think it's almost more, I'm just going to share the presentation because what I want to do, I'm happy to talk more about the report and we can get into that as much as you want. But it felt to me, we shared a bit of this with you the other day when we emailed out the report. But, I'll be at the select board meeting. I'm happy to I can walk through this now just to show you the slides. But if there's anything, I have a few questions about what else you might want us to relay to the select board or highlight. But this is kind of what came out to me as the more, important pieces from this project. So that's really, I just want to get your take on that. And does that sound like an okay plan? Just to sort of walk through the slides? Is that good?
You can, yeah. I think the only comment I sent you was...
Yeah, I got it. The additional recommendation, I think, Les, right?
Yeah, it'd be you speaking to the audience. If you, audience, have anything to relay, please send it to the Water Resources Committee.
Yeah, fair. No, that's fair. So, this is just, everything's going to be slow because I'm sharing, but agenda, we can talk a little bit about... Les, I didn't know if this was something where you wanted to introduce the project since it's a Water Resources Committee project.
I'll say a few words to introduce you and what we've been up to and the status of all of that, but really then to turn it over to you.
Okay.
What I don't know is how long you'll actually take and how long we'll have to actually get through everything. Hopefully we'll have an interested audience. This will be live in the Grange room at Town Hall.
Okay.
And people might want to do some Q&A afterwards if time
Sure.
permits. So we'll have to play it by ear and see how that goes, I think.
Well, with that in mind, I was trying not to overwhelm because sometimes these presentations, I mean, there's a lot in this report.
There's a lot.
Do we
I
know
tried
how
not to.
much time the select board has allocated?
Do you know, Les,
What did you say?
how much time the select board has allocated for this?
Uh, we have about 40 minutes.
Okay, I think that should be enough because I wasn't planning on speaking for too long. I mean, I was going
Right.
to go through this, but the idea for me was to talk through, the overall objectives, which is looking at, population and build out the inventory of the water resources, look at drinking water, wastewater, and then look at the regs. So just talk through that. And then we just pulled out some of the sort of like broader findings, sort of starting with population, just, and I'll talk about how we come up with these numbers. And then I have build out separately so that we can see sort of what build out is. I'll explain that, the build out analysis, what that means for these, where the buildings might be located, and talk about the total number of potential new dwelling units, sort of setting the stage for the rest of it of like, you're going to have an increasing number. And then move on to the drinking water resources. So I could, and I don't have this included here, we created a lot of new maps, like impervious cover, land use, things like that. I don't really talk about any of that in this report. It's just, and I could put a slide in there, list the maps that were created, looking at like land use, giving sort of the background like that. But I felt, which I'm happy to do, but I also felt like we wanted to sort of gear this more towards water demand and wastewater, sort of in that area. So just you can be thinking about that and let me know at some point if you think you want me to put some of that earlier stuff from the report in here as well. So then starting to talk about drinking water resources, I'll talk about the groundwater basins.
I don't
and I'll
think
explain
so.
from the
I
beginning.
think-
Sorry, go ahead.
Brian, Clemens, are you trying to say something?
I don't think it's necessary to include
Okay.
those.
That's kind of was
Yeah,
my
this is
thought.
my poor internet connection.
Okay, we got the point though, so it's good. I think
Um,
that's kind of was my thought as I've gone through this and thought of it a couple different ways. I feel like that information is there, but it doesn't necessarily. I always think of what rises up to the quick summary that you want to give someone, and that doesn't rise up to that level to me. So that's my plan, at least, is to do it this way. I'll talk about the groundwater basins and how we use those sort of as our standard for, how we're looking at this. And I'll explain even here about how these cross municipal boundaries and what that means. So that's kind of setting the stage for that.
Right.
And then I'll talk about current drinking water demand and how we figured that out, essentially what our estimates for that are. And then this is the, current and then the future low and the future high. This is with the commercial. That's why we have the low and high for the future demand here. Oops, sorry about that. And to show sort of the projected percent increase. And I'll just talk through that. And then we have a slide on recharge. And I know that I will talk a lot about this and about the numbers.
You're right.
Don't worry. I'll make sure that this is very clear. We're going to make sure it's clear in the report, but it's easier to be clear about this in a presentation to describe, this is the full basin demand for everything that you see here in color, the groundwater demand within the town boundaries and our future projected groundwater demand. And there's just really no way without, even modeling, when the water's in the ground, it doesn't care about those lines. So I think for me, and from talking with Kevin, when he sees a number like 979 for this full basin, and this is sort of the rates that we have for recharge for the full area, that's okay. That's an extensive amount of extra water available. So I'll make sure that it's clear that this is not water that's only available to within your town boundaries, but So that'll be some of the focus here, is to explain that in a way that's clear to the people that are listening, because it is a confusing concept.
Yes, water moves around. People live in their houses, so
Yep.
we can count them.
We can't count this. Yeah, there's no line that extends deep down it far enough this way. So we can count water coming from pipes, but not from the ground. So but that will be my, I'll make sure that this is clear in the report as well as clear here in the description.
Yeah, that's great. By the way, so the select board presentation, it'll be, recorded, it'll be on TV. Hopefully people will show up. But Cindy, what I'd like to do is schedule a meeting with the planning board at some point and maybe go into a little deeper dive on this, allow the planning board to dialogue with us about this at some point when we can actually arrange that.
Yeah. Emily?
Yes, John.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
John.
On this current I think one thing that's important, because people will read this and say, oh, we have enough water. So there's sufficient water to supply Boxborough with drinking water, but we don't really know the quality of it, do we?
No, and that'll be clear as well. I don't have that on the slide,
Yep.
but that is going to, I'll make sure that, and I'll actually add a note to myself here.
Yeah.
And this is going to be sort of by theme throughout.
Okay.
The theme is water quantity only. And also, and I can talk about water quality if you want, but that can be a little.
Yeah, no. I want them to understand that there's a difference and that we've only talked about quantity in the study.
Yeah, but I think that some of the follow-on recommendations are to try to sample quality data across the town.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I'll make sure every time I talk about drinking water, I'll make sure to note that it's quantity only. I'll repeat it because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That we might have this, but that doesn't.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So yeah, no, thank you for making that point, John. Okay, from there, I'm going to talk about wastewater, and I essentially just pulled up the figure from the environmental risk assessment. So I wanted to talk through sort of what that looks like and how many of these properties fall into each category and what that means. So I'll talk through this in terms of, we know there's septic systems on this many, we assume there's septic systems on this many properties, and then go through what the tiers mean. And then I put this in here to talk about sort of how we looked at then the records from the Neshoba Board of Health, and mostly to point out that, we have at least some, a lot of the systems in that tier 1 are over 20 years old. So talking through that and what that could mean. And then I just was going to go right to recommendations and next steps, because we have, 2 slides filled with those. And I can do those sort of as a one at a time, or, like I can do animations to make them come in if that's helpful. So people are only looking at one at a time. And then that's really it. And then I can take questions as needed.
Yeah, that's great. And I don't think we should get too hairy in the details at this time. The idea is to get the message out there and to get people thinking about it and dialoguing with us about what would they like to see next, what don't they understand, what more information can we provide, that sort of thing. Absolutely. So it's the beginning of an educational process, I think.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely the start of this. So, okay. So it feels then that this is at the right level, with obviously more description from me than is in the slides. But if it feels like there's anything you want me to go into more detail on, I'm happy to do that for the presentation.
I think it's good the way it is. Other folks may have other thoughts. Anybody want to chime in on this?
Looks good.
Sorry, I can't hear. Who was that? Stephen speaking?
I just was mumbling. It looks good to me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Emily, do you have any idea how long you might speak actually at this time?
So there's about 18 slides. I tend to generally go like a minute a slide. That's normally the number we go with, but some of these are quicker. So, but assume with introductions and everything, 20-ish minutes of talking.
Okay.
yeah, I'd say tops, because it's a lot of information, but there's only so much you can go into on each one without pulling up calculations and equations, which I don't want to do because I
Right.
think that turns people off. So
I was just wondering if there was a packet we could leave for the select board, in other words, like the slide presentations in color so that they can go back and look at them.
yeah, we can. That was a question I had for you, Les. If you need to provide
Yes.
slides in
Well,
advance.
yeah, thanks for circling back. So when you are finished with the presentation and are ready to, say, publish it, I can distribute it to the select board ahead of time. You said you
Okay.
may have it done by Friday, for example, or even sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty much done. The report will definitely get back to you on Friday. There's not much I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to change in the slides at this point, unless there was anything you wanted me to add.
Yeah, no, whenever you're comfortable, just send me what you will say is the production
Final,
version for
yeah.
the presentation, and I'll send it on to the administration, and they'll include it in the select board packet.
Okay, and then will they have it loaded on a computer when I come, or should I bring that with me?
Oh, it'll be on the town hall's machine, but I'll double check, make sure everyone's prepared for that.
Okay, and I will bring a flash drive with the Title V documentation, like I
Yeah,
said,
thank
and
you.
I'll put the presentation on that as well, just in case.
Okay.
For some reason, and I generally have it like 3 ways whenever I come. I hope they have it. I'll bring my computer,
Yeah.
and then I will also bring the flash drive. So
Right,
we'll have ability to do it.
John?
Yeah,
Question?
well, Les, the question I have, it's just a general question. The select board may ask what the impact is of what we're doing with Littleton Water on this.
Yep.
And if that was factored into this study. That's just a general question they may ask.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
how would you answer that, Emma?
I was like, well, so the drinking water assessment was really done on current use based on where people live currently. So we do have within the report the alternative drinking water sources that may come, and that's included. But in terms of what we calculated, that does not include, we didn't take away for the Littleton Boxborough connector. But it is noted in the report as something that will be a source in the future.
I think to more John's point, one of the things that we should speak about is that it's the water quality that we've changed by bringing the lens in. It's offering fire protection, drinking water quality through a treatment plant, and
Yep.
it's offering a long-term solution for storage in case we need it for fire issues.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll note that is because of a water quality issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
that'd be great.
Yeah, if it comes up and I can deal with some of that. For example, I think actually the line on the western side of town, I think it's charged at this point, and the hydrants are active as far as I know.
I was told that the hydrants are active.
Yes. So firefighting is enabled on the western side of town.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And I'll bring this back again to the water quality side of things as needed. It'll just be sort of like, again, that ongoing theme. So,
Yes.
talking about what's in the ground.
Yeah, so just one other thing on the Littleton Water. I was at a meeting the other day and talking to some people who live on that part of town.
Yeah.
And they were saying that even though the water will be available, I guess, in 2026,
Yep.
the water won't be portable until 2027.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. So if that comes up, we should be able to explain that to the select board.
That's a good point. I'll have to get the word from Littleton Water on that. The statement is the construction of the pipeline will be complete by the end of 26.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say when drinking water will be provided. I don't know that day, actually. I need to find out if.
Yeah, so yeah. So some of the people that live in the condos were told that they won't have portable water until 2027, and therefore they have to do something. They have to keep their wells up to date or something to that effect.
Well, that did come up, but the place that burned, they wanted to have an interim solution, but that was not allowed by DEP, so they had to go in and I think reactivate one of their spare wells, maybe.
Yeah, that's the one. That's right. Yep, that's it.
I'll get
Okay,
the word
just-
from
Just in case.
no. I'll get the word from Matt Silverman on how he would like that to be put forward.
Okay.
I can tell
All
you,
right.
I jump ahead to an item on the update section. Littleton Water has actually talked to all the property owners who will have the ability or the option to connect. So they've actually done all that work. So now they're going to go down and actually start talking turkey to who is going to pay and to what when.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
good.
have any details on that.
Okay. Yeah, Les, you may need to jump in a couple times for some of the details on the Littleton Boxborough piece. And I could talk to Kevin as well. He is somewhat available, even though he's in Costa Rica.
All right. Folks, have any more questions for Emily or suggestions? So you will send the version you intend to show at the select board meeting to me soon.
Yeah.
And I will then
Just
give
say
it
you'll
to
get
them.
everything by Friday, Les, just to make
Yeah.
sure, since I'm kind of in and out the next 2 days. So I'll make sure it's all good to go, both the report and this by Friday, and get
Yeah.
those to you. And then I will be in Boxborough next
Yeah,
week.
right. I hope some of the others can go. I know Janet couldn't make it tonight, but she said she does plan to go to the select board presentation.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, Emily, thanks very much. If nobody has any more questions for Emily, we can let you go for the evening.
All right. My children will
Thank
be
you,
happy to
Emily.
hear that. So thank you guys.
We'll see
Thank
you
you
next
all for
Monday.
your-
All right.
Yeah, I'll see you all. And then Les, just send that email with that comment, the word
Yes, I will.
to me and Lindsay, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
just to make
Yep.
sure. Okay, perfect. All right. I will see you all next week. Thank you.
Okay, Doug. Thank you.
Take
Have a
care.
good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Now,
Thanks, Emily.
back to the original agenda, which is now to actually review and approve the minutes of September 16th, which Brian did distribute to everyone. And hopefully you've all had a chance to look at them. If that's the case, then I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Nobody wants to move the minutes?
I'll move the minutes for approval on the September 16th agenda.
And I'll second it.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Moved by Brian Lynch, seconded by John Markowitz. Any more discussion on the minutes? In that case, let's take a vote. Steve Schmidt doesn't show on screen here, but I'll come back to him. Brian Lynch,
Aye.
Brian Clemens,
Aye.
John Markowitz,
Markowitz, aye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Markowitz, aye.
and Steve Schmidt.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. There's something that came our way kind of unexpectedly, but the towns of Acton, Littleton, and Concord have invited Boxborough to join on their Water Management Act grant application, which I distributed to everyone more than a week ago. Basically, that will allow the town, if it's successful, it's a grant. If it's successful, then it'll enable the town to do some characterization of the water resources in their towns, also to do some work characterizing infrastructure and do some planning. And actually, Corey Godfrey, who is now with Acton Water, approached me about this and thought this might help Foxborough with our planning activities for the future. So I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So sign us on. So they did. They included us in it. And now we need to wait and see what happens. The expectation is that these grant applications are typically heard from around January. So we may hear yay or nay along about the January timeframe. I looked over the application, the grant application, and there are several things that I thought were kind of interesting. Let me see if I can do this without getting screwed up. Share this. Share. Let's see. I'm sharing it. Why does the sharing tool look different than it did last time? My God. There's something strange about this. I think I was using some, yeah, there's more AI stuff that's creeping in everywhere. That was some kind of AI sharing thing. I notice now all the documents that come across now have little AI generated summaries, whether I want them or not.
Welcome to Windows 11 and your new Office.
It isn't just that, it's everywhere. Gee whiz.
Yeah.
So I looked through that Water Management Act application, and I hope you take a look at it. And I noted these things that in that grant application that are listed as deliverables that seem relevant to things we may want to do. I just bulleted them here. Identify potential interconnection points between communities based on hydraulic feasibility, demand patterns, and system capacity. Develop preliminary sizing, layout, and cost estimates for required infrastructure improvements, and conceptual level cost estimates and an implementation and roadmap for interconnection improvements. My thinking here is that if we find down the road, for whatever reason, quantity or quality driven, we need to think about whether it will be necessary or desirable to connect to either Acton or Littleton or both, sort of along the lines that we've already done with Littleton to bring more water into town. So that's sort of far future planning. But my thinking is that this Water Management Act, Water Management Grant application activity could be some useful preliminary planning work for us, which I have not talked to any of the other towns about this. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you on this. It seems like something that we could get out of this without any investment of money that could help us think about this in the future. That's about as far as I've gotten with it. There are lots of other details in that grant application, but these seem to me to be the most interesting pieces that I could find. So one of the things, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, is that, so what do we have to bring to the party? And Brian Lynch is saying, what can we bring to the party?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out we have a very big well, which we call the Hager well. We are using only about 2% or so of its capacity as measured back when it was pump tested back 2000, thereabouts, I think. And Dufresne Henry, who did that, were not able to complete a stronger, lengthier pump test to find its true limitations. They guessed that it could produce much more than that they gauged at the time. It's permitted at 100,000 gallons a day, but it could be more in reality. To actually find out would require an extended pump test, and that does not come cheap. But if it was something that you need to do to bring something to the party in terms of quantifying and a source that we could provide as part of our quid pro quo and a deal, we can find out. So just, and keep that in the back of your mind. I mean, to me, that's a pretty significant contribution, I would think.
Mhm.
And It's ours.
Les, are you thinking of like tying that into the Littleton system or the Acton system?
No idea yet.
No idea.
Whether or not it would be joined in an existing distribution or a new one or another line that comes in from Acton. I mean, all this would have to be fleshed out. So I have no idea.
The biggest concern would be we would have to treat the water before we could put it into either system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I'm thinking if we allow some other town access to the raw water, then that make them take care of the treatment, you know. So
that won't be possible because otherwise you're going to be building double pipelines.
well, that's a cost benefit trade-off, right? So,
let me tell you, I think they're improving the technology for treatment a lot more rapidly than they are the cost of blowing through ledge.
yeah.
Is it,
So
is
we don't
it
know.
feasible? Is it feasible to have Littleton operate that well if it's connected to their system?
Well,
It's actually in Boxborough. That's what I was wondering about.
yeah, well, that was kind of one of our earlier ideas about what we would do with a well, say, to be found on Harvard Sports Club. We would allow, say, Littleton Water or somebody else to actually operate that well and use it as a source.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of unknowns here.
Yeah, I mean, the distance though to Acton is much shorter than
Mhm.
Hager well, so it's not a lot of piping really.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
know,
it's
and I think Brian Clemens has detected this in our discussions with Matt Mustiller and Acton Water. They're very keen on knowing what's going on with our well. So,
Mhm.
Well, they still have the original.
Yes,
Grant.
they've already suggested building 2 pipelines.
sorry, Brian, what'd you say?
He said they already suggested building 2
Acton
pipelines.
has already thrown out the possibility of a dual pipeline from Hager Well to Acton and back to Boxborough.
I didn't know they had actually said suggested a 2-way. So this is all to be. Oh,
Yeah, he brought that up at one of our meetings.
didn't remember that. So thanks. Well, so there's stuff out there that we have to look into. We do have something to bring to the party, though.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's the only reason I'm putting this up here. I don't need to stop sharing it. Yeah, so stay tuned is about all I can say on that one. I think it's an interesting development. There has not yet been the kickoff meeting of the 3 towns, Acton, Littleton, Concord, and Boxborough, on getting this project underway. I don't know what the thinking is, even when that might happen. Probably not until they hear on the grant application, which is said to be around about January. So put this on the back burner for now, but think about what we might do if we get lucky and catch the gold ring.
unless when you ran this by Mike, what did he have anything to say?
He said, "Thanks for writing this application up."
Okay. Okay. All right.
He was very pleased at the opportunity. So
Okay, great. Thanks.
yeah, there was no time to do it. It's one of those things that came in over the transom, no time to call a meeting or do anything. So I sent a letter in as the chair of the water resource. I did not speak for you folks, but that's the way I did it. So Brian Clemens said that he had told me he had found a cache of old maps and information on our firefighting infrastructure. And you want to talk about that, Brian?
Yes, if you can put up with my poor internet connection.
Shall I make you a co-host then?
I did find the maps that, no, I don't have them in front of me to show.
Should I make you a co-host?
Randy White, when he was the chief. No, I'm not going to pull up the maps.
Okay, we'll bag that. So you found the maps.
Randy White, when he was the chief, gave us, yes, I found that he gave us a map and a list of all the cisterns and ponds and what looked like a database maybe that generated the map. So I gave those to our current chief. I haven't heard back from him, but they have the inventory. I mean, they know what the inventory isn't going to help him that much, but the map would help him. They don't have a map of their own. The only difference is that since 2019, they have added Encore and Taylor Farm Road.
Yeah.
So there are, whatever there are, fire ponds or cisterns there that are not in the 2019 database. So their
By the
database
way,
is more up to date than what we were familiar with, but they don't have a map.
okay. By the way, you mentioned Taylor Farm Road. That's all private wells, correct?
Yeah, of
That's what I
course.
thought. Well, I didn't remember that anybody putting in a public water supply over there. So we should talk to the chief.
No, but I think there's a cistern there.
Yes, for firefighting, right.
Right.
I was just wondering about what did they do for the individual houses? It's all private wells. But what we should do is find out from the chief, what can we do to help him address the issue of what does he need to do to be on top of the firefighting situation? Does he need better maps? Does he need any advice? I don't know. But I'm glad to see that we can at least document what we've got, because at some point this is going to come up again and mad scramble to find out where did we put stuff.
Well, I think the big thing, Les, that we have to look at is, how dependable are the fire ponds and the other cisterns that we have, and how much water can that deliver to a particular spot in town, given we have 3 engines and pump tanks.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I mean, there's got to be some formalism for how you disperse firefighting ponds around a town so that it's not too far from any one pond to a place you want to fight a fire, and so on and so on. I don't know whether there's any formalism around that and how we stand against that.
I think there's probably some issues or some, how should we put it, guidance issued by Insurance Service Organization, or their new name, on how they do that.
Well, it just strikes me as this is something we might talk to the chief about. Is there some way we can help him to try to address this very topic?
I think we could help him by hiring Weston and Sampson to help do the planning.
They have expertise in this aspect of water.
I would assume so.
So by the way, I have not talked to the chief about this. That sounds like Brian Clemens has. So,
yeah, but like I said, he didn't get back to me after I sent him the maps. So,
yeah, because there was a study done a long time ago trying to determine the amount of water available after a 50-year drought in all the open cisterns or the open ponds. And I think that prompted a lot of this information being generated.
Yes.
And that's something we probably have to repeat, because I'm sure things in the natural environment haven't stayed the same.
Yeah, ponds fill in, for example.
Yeah.
And I mean, it'd be like a question for a town meeting action. I mean, should we evaluate the suitability and readiness of our various fire ponds in town and ascertain the condition thereof, and how much would that cost? And here's what we want.
Yep.
I have no idea what
we should be doing.
What should we do?
Yeah. Well, the other problem too is we got to buy a ladder truck at some point in time, because we We don't have the old one.
Right. So that's a topic to. Sorry.
Are you gonna like are you thinking about requesting money for for a study like that at the next town meeting, maybe?
Yeah,
Yes.
interestingly enough, John Greben, who is the Finance Committee's member of this committee, could not join us tonight, but he sent me a note. He's saying he'd like to get together and then over the next few days and find out what are my thoughts about what we might need. So I assume that's a prelude to talking about what is our wish list for requests for the 2026 town meeting. There's a lot we could put on the list at this point in time, and
Yeah.
I think times are going to be tight, so we have to think about that.
Yeah, I think understanding our fire protection system is not a frivolous thing.
No, it's not.
Well, let's
And
get
the
some
only-
input from the chief and see.
Yep. So we're going to have this meeting. Emily will present at the Board of Selectmen next Monday. So that's kind of like initial public outreach. I need to start thinking about what we're going to do to follow up on that. I mentioned what I think we should do is schedule a joint meeting with the planning board, or at least a good showing of water resources folks at the planning board meeting, and talk about the report and where we're going to go from here and get their thoughts on what they think should be done. And it's just hard work actually doing public outreach. I don't know if you went to a special town meeting and heard Mary Brolin's lament. I watched it by streaming. I was not in Boxborough, but the streaming, actually, that's my first experience watching a town meeting on streaming on my little computer, and it worked really well. You can actually hear everything, see everything. You don't have to move around. Great technology. Anyway, I think we need to think about how we're going to do outreach and education. And it's not easy. Remember, Mary said that, and this is about getting people educated about the fire station needs. I forget, she had made 20 or 30 different presentations around town over many months and had very poor showing, actually. I think maybe all told, maybe less than 24 distinct individuals over all those meetings showed up. So Mary's pitch at the special town meeting that we just had was that I've got you all in the room now, so that's why I'm asking these questions. She was probing at the time about sensitivity to various cost factors and which way to proceed on a fire station. So, and I know that's hard to get people excited about coming out for presentations and briefings, but we're going to have to do something. So I think the first most obvious thing to do is to get together with the planning board and see what their questions or concerns are, and especially get their input on where they think we should be heading for the next step. And there's lots of different things that could be done. So as I said, we are posted to attend the Weston and Sampson presentation on this report, which will be at the October 27th Select Board meeting. I plan to be there. It's in-person meeting, so it'll be on BXB-TV. It'll be recorded, and I hope that there will be at least a little dialogue with Emily and those of us who get engaged.
Oh, Les, did you post a meeting for us?
Yes. Yes.
I thought you did. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So that brings us to the reports section. First thing is the Littleton water line update. It's been fairly quiet, but I'm told by Tara McManus that all the properties that are have been contacted who have the option to connect. I don't have a total for how many have committed to connecting, but at least they've been contacted. That's all I have on the water line, although, as I suspected, the water line is charged for firefighting, and John or somebody's confirmed that's their understanding as well. Sam is not with us tonight, so we'll have to wait for another time to get an update on the select board. Cindy, do you have something that you'd like to say about the planning board?
Nothing specific to water. We did hear, we're still hearing application for the 975 Mass Ave property. And then across the street, we did open our hearing for site plan approval for the 984 property where the Tree Masters yard is currently in operation, and they're filing for site plan approval and a stormwater permit. We're still engaged with the Campanelli folks for the open space commercial, I can never get the right name, open space commercial development special permit, and we'll be meeting with them on the 30th. Those are sort of the, I guess, the three happening projects right now for us.
Okay, great. Conscom update, Steve?
There's nothing water related there either. Just our normal schedule of hearings.
Okay. Mr. Lynch, anything from the Board of Health?
Yeah, we are currently have a draft set of regulations for testing of wells in private property upon transfer of ownership.
Okay.
I'm working on that right now, and I've requested Mike Johns to see if he can't find some money to allow us to find someone to start translating from all the how should we say, the paper documents as built for the septic systems and wells in town to a GIS database on a map so we can find them quickly.
Yeah, that reminds me, Cindy, I'll get to you in a second. That reminds me that, Emily said that she had lots of data on septic systems around town. Well, it turns out those are all the Neshoba Board of Health files, I think. She did not send them by email because it's too big, but she's going to bring a thumb drive with all those files on it to the select board presentation. Right. And so I should get them either probably into clerk's hands, just put them up on our website so it can be accessed by anybody. She says they're all in the Neshoba Board of Health stuff, so presumably we already know about it. But
yes, we do. But the problem we have is we don't have it on a GIS map.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is get the information for the well and the septic systems on the GIS system so that we can look at it and we'll not only have a picture of what's on the lot, but where these things are on the lot.
Yeah, I understand. But at least we should have both things. We should have maps and we should have the background, the backing up information. So.
Yep. Theoretically, we're supposed to have it in our files.
Yeah, right. Cindy?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Brian just mentioned about new proposed regulations. This is something I think that should be made, the town really needs to be alerted of. I'm not sure what your timeline is, whether you're having a public hearing coming up, but I would recommend that, this is going to be of great importance or great interest to anybody who's, contemplating selling their house. I don't know, again, what publicity you're planning on doing, but I would suggest that the Board of Health do a lot of outreach around this issue, because I do think people are going to be concerned about it. And if they miss the opportunity to comment publicly, I think people may get frustrated that they didn't know about it. So do you have a date by which you're holding public hearings? And
we haven't had a meeting to discuss that yet. I was absent the last meeting because I was out of town.
Okay, well, I'm just suggesting that this could be a very hot button issue townwide, and the Board of Health should go above and beyond its usual notice requirements to get the word out to folks in town about these proposed
Yeah,
regulations.
the realtors have already been contacting us.
Right.
Who's been contacted, Brian?
The realtors, they
Okay.
were aware of it in other towns. They were kind of curious that we didn't have it.
I
Well,
mean,
when
I
you start
think-
having your public hearings, make sure the word gets out. People can come to those hearings and get
No, it's only going
involved.
to be one hearing. That's it.
well, I think you ought to notify Boxborough News. I think there ought to be notification up on the town website. Sorry,
That's
Yeah.
okay.
you know. So yeah, I'm encouraging you to do a lot of outreach. Sorry, I'm gonna have to put you guys on pause. I got to take this call.
Do you have any idea, all things considered, when those regs might be adopted and ready for approval?
I was hoping to have them out by the end of the year.
Okay.
And this will also give us a better picture of water quality throughout the town as houses are sold.
Yeah, I'd love to get that data.
Yep. Yeah, we're modeling them on the Harvard regs right now.
Great. How many towns in the Commonwealth have such a regulation? Do you have any idea?
I don't know, but I know Stowe has it and Harvard both have it.
Yeah.
Manchester has it.
Manchester, Mass.
Yeah. And they can't find a lab to do PFAS testing.
They what?
They can't there's no lab near them that will do PFAS testing. So they're trying to figure
Wow.
out what to do about that.
I know the lab that does it here is associated with Neshoba. Neshoba Analytics, and they're up in New Hampshire that does it.
They're looking, you said they're looking for a lab that will do PFAS testing?
That's what Brian said. Yeah.
So the usual labs
they
that are
don't-
listed on it,
They don't know of one near them.
does that mean they have talked to the people who are listed on the DEP site and they don't respond or what?
Well, there was one nearby in Gloucester, but they no longer do PFAS testing. So that ruled out any lab near Manchester.
Yeah, the lab it might not necessarily be nearby, which could pose an issue I don't know what the transport requires on for chain of evidence for water that's being used for that kind of sensitive testing. You know, Brian?
As far as I know, you have to put it in we're requiring that it's be sampled by a authorized agent of the Board of Health.
Right. Okay, interesting. So our sort of semi-regular conversation with Littleton and Acton and Littleton on water. We didn't have one recently. Nothing comes to mind except to relay the fact that the towns that have been in this conversation are now participating in this Water Management Act grant application that I told you about earlier. Brian, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, because we haven't had another meeting with them, so.
Right. Well, the other thing that came in just this afternoon, I sent you all an email on it. The town planner has sent around a request for an update on master plan progress, which for some reason, I don't know, the distribution list from the planner only included a few that I could see. I think I was blind copied, so I saw it. I don't know who else got it. And so I don't know who all was pulsed on that mail. But so they're asking us to do an update on our action items on the master plan that pertain to the Water Resources Committee. They're due on the 20th of November. It turns out that we have a meeting scheduled. We will have it scheduled, slated to be scheduled on the 18th. So I'm hoping that I can get some help with the usual suspects, which I'm looking at Brian Clements, because he already dug into this last time, to help me put together a response to the planner's request on an update on this stuff. And I haven't looked, it's just a simple form that the planner, Alec Wade, has provided on action. So we'd have to go and look at what our actions were, what the updates were. Now, Brian Clemens, I'm remembering that you had gotten pretty far into this last time we did this. Has it already been 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I can take a first crack at it.
Let me know how I can help you on that.
Okay.
And there was a related and somewhat dormant issue on updates to the climate action plan. As I recall, the instruction from Alec, or we'll contact you when we need something, and I haven't heard from him. So that's where it stands. So, anybody else have anything they want to relay to the group?
Just one thing that I saw in American Society of Civil Engineers, that they're working on or have promulgated new regulations for climate reporting on how you design drainage systems and the amount of rainfall and the intensity. So that's out there currently being promulgated.
Is this fit a different model like the standard, 100-year storm incidents and that sort of thing? Or something else?
That's exactly what they're talking about.
But is there a new approach to it, or just applying that?
I think it's a new approach. They're looking at the intensities and looking at the charts that's going to describe more about the, how should we say, the compact timeline in which rain falls and the impact on drainage systems.
Yeah. Distribution is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep seeing things in the popular press that major downpours have become more frequent recently, but I haven't seen any real data, real plots of that. So.
Well, if you're in Texas, you've seen the results, a lot of flooding.
Yeah. They certainly have gotten hit by it. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the agenda. Our next regular meeting will be November 18th at 7:30. And I look forward to seeing you all then. So time for me to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Brian Lynch, seconded by John, was it?
Yep.
Okay, let's do a vote. Stephen Schmidt?
Aye.
John Markowitz?
Markowitz, aye.
Brian Clemens?
Aye.
Brian Lynch?
Aye.
And Cindy Markowitz? Cindy might be muted.
Oh, she said she was taking a phone call.
Oh. Well, we'll mark her down as aye.